Hey guys, this is Paul of Emerald Enclosures. I figured while I was working on maintenance for this betta vase I have, I figured I'd go over a couple of things about it for anyone who wants to try the same thing. Now, bettas, well obviously I'm pretty sure everyone knows what a betta is. It's a Siamese fighting fish, pretty aggressive against any fish who has flowing fins like itself. Typically can only be kept one betta per tank, but female bettas can be kept together. At least that's what I've been told. I haven't tried it myself. And what I'm doing right now is I am doing a small water change in this vase. I'm not sure if I'd ever be able to reach a point where I'll be able to just leave it indefinitely, but just because it's a betta and it creates more waste than a shrimp does, and that's the reason why shrimp tanks like this one I have right here never really need to have the water changed. And if you put a top on it that can absorb the evaporation, you could literally just forget this thing most of the time. But bettas create more waste than shrimp do, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to keep doing water changes. This is the first one I've done so far. And the plants, for the most part, I've been able to keep up with the waste in the tank. I just don't want to rely on the plants completely. I'm wondering if the addition of this wandering Jew on top is going to be enough after I get the nitrate levels a little bit lower. I wonder if it'll, flatline, like be able to completely take over any sort of water filtration duties now that I have some Amazonian swords on the bottom. I have the Java moss in the middle. I have these tiny lily pads on top. And of course the wandering Jew. So I have 4 different filtration plants in this one tank. The Java moss is good also because it helps keeps the betta amused. It likes to just roll around in it. Bettas need to have something in their tank to keep them busy, or they might start scratching against the glass and they could hurt themselves. The Amazonian swords I put in because they're rooting plants, and they need, and I figured with a tank like this that doesn't have a filter, it'd be best to have some sort of plant that roots into the soil. That way it can absorb any of the nutrients that falls to the bottom of the tank, vase, whatever you want to call it. These little lily pads, as you can see from this tank right here, reproduce really fast. If they ever got into the local ecosystem, they wouldn't really mess anything up because they're already native around here, and I can just take some off the top and throw them away as I need to, or throw them into a compost pile that I have upstairs with my worms. So they're exceptional for breaking down nitrates, although the lily pads grow a lot faster in this tank than they do in this one. But yeah, what I'm doing right now, so I can sorry, I'm just keep checking for mail. I'm expecting a new watch today. First thing I've bought myself in a very long time. I'm looking forward to it. Anywho, I'm using this little device that I made that I usually use for drip acclimating new fish and shrimp to tanks to drain the water out of this into this cup right here. I'm doing it so that I can help preserve the ecosystem in here, because I have little cyclopses, daphnia, a couple of planaria, but non-harmful planaria that are just kind of rod-shaped. Planaria with heart-shaped or arrow-shaped heads can be very dangerous to whatever is in the tank with them, because they can get into the bodies and then they can bust through them like xenomorphs. But the purpose of them is to help break down any dead and decaying plant matter on the bottom of the tank. I've tried putting Malaysian trumpet snails in, but I think the betta ate them, so it's not really worth it. So the only thing that I could really do to make sure this dead and decaying plant matter gets eaten so it doesn't hang around the tank more is by putting microorganisms that'll break it down. It's not going to be as fast, but it'll work over time. As long as I keep to the water changes until then. But yeah, I'm just doing... this is probably going to be a fifth of a water change. I don't want to do too much at a time so I can help preserve the beneficial bacteria inside the vase. So take out a small amount and put a small amount of distilled water back in. Now, if you ever see anyone trying to sell a betta vase or whatever kind of weird setups they have nowadays, I just want to explain something about bettas. Bettas are not plant eaters. You do need to feed them. They will not eat the roots of plants, and even if they did, they would just get sick. Bettas would quite literally eat steak over plants any day. I haven't tried it, but I've heard of people feeding their bettas steak every now and then. They're tiny sharks. They're not omnivores of any type. They eat bloodworms, they eat fruit flies, they eat fish flakes. I feed mine fruit flies every other feeding, and I feed it every 2 to 3 days. That way that it stays lean. It's a little trick, I know, that the less that you feed an animal, the longer it lives, because the slower its metabolic rate is. Now remember that when you go to a plant store and they may have a betta vase, or you may see one of these aqua gardens with pictures of bettas on the bottom saying that the fish will eat it. Well, they won't. You will kill your betta slowly, and it'll be a very painful, agonizing death. It's like trying to feed a lion tofu, which those hippies learned that it doesn't really work. I can't really see much else that I want to talk about. If you're going to do any sort of vining plant like this, go with pothos, water lilies, or wandering Jew. I'm still testing out a couple of different plants. I'm not sure if ivy can have water-drenched roots like these can, but it would be good to know because I'm pretty sure ivy grows faster than all of them combined. Although, looking at my frog tank, I'm sure it's a little bit hard to see, but the overgrowth has grown absolutely ridiculous in this tank. Like, there's no stopping this wandering Jew, and it's out competing the ivy in this tank. I haven't trimmed it because these frogs are so light that they can actually jump on the leaves and they won't even knock anything down. So I haven't really bothered. But mostly, this video was just about me going over how you actually run a proper betta vase and to stay away from the fakes that you may see in Walmart, Petco, Pet Supplies, whatever. They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. You're going to kill your fish. This is how you set up a proper betta tank, with lots and lots of plants, sparse feeding, although make sure when you feed them the right things, and water changes. At least until you you have 0 nitrates on a regular basis. That's my video for this week. I didn't want to rush my video on the water portion of my duo spider paludarium, but technically it's done. I just need to do a couple of touch-ups, like some painting, and I didn't want to make the last video before I finished that, so you can expect the finished video next week. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. This has been Paul of Enclosures, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.